Wow, what a race we had around Monza this afternoon on Sunday. It did not go the way that I or most people probably expected today, but an eventful race. It was a good, old-fashioned, proper race, start to finish. No real interruptions, just some absolutely rapid action around Monza. I think it might well go down as the fastest race in F1 history as well. We'll check that at some point as well. But it was, of course, the fastest lap ever set in Formula 1 yesterday for pole position for Max Verstappen. But could Max see it through for an unlikely victory today on Sunday? Well, here are the 5 things that we learned from today's 2025 Italian Grand Prix. And the answer to that question is a resounding yes. Max was absolutely putting on a masterclass today. He did lose the lead at the start of the race to Lando Norris. Norris going onto the grass down the pitch straight. Max Verstappen getting, some may say, forced off, but still he had to go on the runoff to be able to maintain his position. He was told to give that position back by Gianpiero Lambiase, his race engineer, but soon after that, even though most people, including myself, probably thought, right, well, Norris is past now, Piastri will get past Max Verstappen in a few laps, Max just turned it up. I don't know how he did it, but he had incredible pace today on Sunday, and after that, he pulled out a gap. He gapped the McLarens. He did what the McLarens normally do to the rest of the field. He almost won the race today by about 20 seconds. All the top 3 went on such a long stint on the medium tyres. Like the McLarens went 45 laps, I think, on the medium tyres during this race, almost the whole Grand Prix distance. Max went on to the hards for his second and final stint. The McLarens went on to the softs, and even though the McLarens were on tyres that were 2 steps softer than what Max had on, they just couldn't catch him. They could not get anywhere near to him. Max was an absolute masterclass today. He almost lapped his teammate Yuki Tsunoda as well. Absolutely incredible. What a win. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming. You know, you can't say that he just held off the McLarens because they couldn't overtake like we saw in the Japanese Grand Prix. He was in a class of one today, all by himself. Superb. Absolutely incredible. But let's talk about the McLarens next. Bit of drama, it's fair to say, between the two of these guys. Lando Norris did lead the race in the early stages for a brief amount of time, but he was consistently ahead of Oscar Piastri, although Piastri was closing in before their first and only stop of the race. Basically, McLaren did a strategy where Piastri actually stopped first out of the two of them because he was a bit worried about Charles Leclerc being able to catch him after that pit stop, just in case. However, Lando Norris, when he stopped a lap later, he actually had a really bad pit stop. I think it was about 6 seconds or so. It was significantly longer than what it ideally would be, and that meant that Oscar Piastri got ahead of Lando Norris. McLaren, then feeling a bit guilty about this, ordered Norris through. Piastri was not happy about it, but he did it. He understood the decision, even if he didn't agree with it. After that, Piastri could not catch Lando Norris, and Norris did enough to finish second. He gained some points back in the Drivers' Championship as a result of that, but it's still not a great day for him because it's only 3 points. It's still a big old gap between him and Oscar. Now, I'm going to do a separate video. I'm going to record it straight after this one, going over this incident in some more detail and ask whether it was the right thing, whether this was some classic British bias in Formula 1 yet again. So I'll do that in a separate video. We can discuss that in more detail another time. But let's talk about Ferrari. Next, third thing that we learned. Again, they kind of converted their qualifying pace through to what we saw in the race today. Charles Leclerc was in 4th place. He wasn't that far behind the two McLarens in the end. He did all he could today, really. Hamilton did a decent job. He got up from P10 to P6 by the end. He wasn't quite fast enough to be able to catch George Russell, who got a credible 5th place in the Mercedes today. Not a bad result. They would have hoped for more, of course, Ferrari, but in truth, that's really the most they could have hoped for, and it's solid points for the constructors today. They outscored every other constructor aside from McLaren, so their 2nd place in the constructors is looking even more solid than before. But let's talk about Alexander Albon today. Maybe driver of the day, some might argue. Williams were really poor in qualifying, both out in Q2. I thought they would have had really good pace around this track with it in so high speed, but in qualifying over one lap, it didn't really seem to suit the cars. However, both Alexander Albon and Carlos Sainz ran really long on their medium and hard stints. I believe it was Albon that was on the hard at the start, and that, if anything, worked better. Being able to stop so late in the race allowed him to effectively not get caught up by a lot of the traffic, and thanks to that, he managed to finish in P7, a standout drive. Not a good day for Carlos Sainz, though, unfortunately. He was caught up in an incident with Ollie Behrman. Behrman got a 10-second penalty for that, but it still meant that Carlos Sainz went spinning spinning across the Della Roggia chicane, the second chicane around the track, and as a result, he's out of the points again. Carlito, no bueno, not good for him, unfortunately. But let's talk about the home hero in the form of the driver. We've spoken about the local legend when it comes to the teams. Let's speak about the home hero when it comes to the driver, Kimi Antonelli. Now, he started in the top 10. He had a decent qualifying yesterday, and he did a decent job today, in my opinion. He ended up in P9 in the end. He crossed the line in P8, just behind Alexander Albon, but he had a 5-second penalty, which dropped him behind Gabby Bortoleto. Shout out to Bortoleto, another really solid points finish for him in the Sauber today. But, you know, honestly, Antonelli's needed those points more. He really, really did. He was been desperate for those points for such a long time now. It's been a really poor run for him in that Mercedes, unfortunately. And despite that driving erratically penalty, which I don't even know what that's regarding. Maybe he was trying to break the slipstream and was just doing it a bit too much. I don't know. Italians driving erratically in Italy. No way, that never happens. But in all seriousness, he needed that today. He was outclassed by George Russell as usual, but he got points today for Mercedes, which is very big for him. But yeah, those are the 5 main highlights, the 5 things that we learned from today's Grand Prix in Italy. What were your main highlights? What were your main takeaways? A Monza masterclass from Max. I'm probably going to put that as the title of the video as well. Absolutely superb, world class, and he showed again why he's a 4-time world champion. He might not be able to challenge the McLarens regularly, but on his day, when that car is set up, he is absolutely untouchable, and he was yet again. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more like this, guys. And like I said, I've got a video going out on the McLarens very soon in terms of just the controversy there over what happened during the pit stops. See you soon, guys. Have a great day with the world today. See you very soon.